Hey everybody, I'm Greg Bush. I'm the trumpet teacher here at Vancouver Island University, and we're going to talk about a few trumpet tips today. I've been hanging out here with my friend and colleague Ben Enriquez, who's doing the filming, and we've been having a few giggles about doing this, but we certainly hope that it's going to be helpful for you. One of the things that I've noticed about less experienced players when they come to VIU to audition, and nervousness aside, and usually they're pretty good, but the first thing that I notice they're not doing is they're not blowing the trumpet. They're not putting enough air for the trumpet. And I always think back to many years ago, I was doing a workshop at a school, at a high school, working with the jazz band. And when we were done, a trumpet player came up to me, he's like, "Mr. Bush, can you help me out here? I'm having trouble hitting that high C at the end of the tune." I was like, "Okay, well, let me hear what you're doing." He's like, "Okay, here, just check this out." And he's like, and I'm like, "Whoa, buddy, stop, hold on a second. You're gonna like blow a gasket there," as the saying goes. Well, what was the thing that the student wasn't doing? They weren't putting any air through the trumpet to get to those notes. So the trumpet is presenting some resistance. You have to get the idea of blowing past the resistance. So to get the air going, what you can do is you can go to the trouble of having a PVC pipe. This is something that one of my students made several years ago. He went out and he bought a long length of pipe. He chopped them up to about this size, and he gave one to his fellow students and one to me. So you notice the size of the opening, right? So you take a breath in and you blow out. There's absolutely no resistance. I mean, look at the size of the opening, right? So that can get you taking a big breath of air in and blowing a big breath of air out. But you've also got this very elaborate length of pipe in your hand too. It's something that I find helpful, and I still do this every day. Let's take the mouthpiece off the trumpet, put the lead pipe in your mouth like this, and just blow through. And really get a sense of what it feels like to blow through something like that that's got very little resistance because of the opening on the lead pipe. Be very careful that you don't hyperventilate. I did a couple just now, and I started to feel myself get dizzy. We don't need Ben to stop the video and to pick me up off the ground. The next thing, once you've done that a few times, and you want to memorize what that feels like to have the air just whooshing through the trumpet. Then I like to put the mouthpiece on. Put the mouthpiece in your mouth. Now the throat, the size of the opening is much smaller, so it's going to give a little bit more, maybe a lot more resistance. But again, you want to get that feeling of blowing through the horn with no resistance. You want to memorize that feeling, and again, you want to stop before you start to get dizzy. And then as you start to play music, start to actually physically play the trumpet, you're trying to recreate that feeling of blowing through the horn and there's no resistance. You're tricking yourself into thinking there's no resistance. So I'm just thinking of going and putting that note across the room. And then as I'm reminded of that young student that was asking me for the advice that day, keep blowing through the horn as the notes start to present a little bit of resistance. You have to blow past that resistance. So we're in a large room here, and I was thinking of putting that note just a little bit farther than where Ben is standing. The next note up to try out, I'm going to think about putting that note a little farther. I'm going to put the next note against the back wall. But the whole time I'm doing that, I'm thinking about going and meeting the resistance and blowing past the resistance and putting a lot of air through the horn and making the notes go to the back wall. And now for the last note, I'm going to imagine there's a hole in the wall over there. And I'm going to put the note through the wall, into the corridor, maybe even out into the parking lot. So I'm thinking of how far can I push the air? How far across the room can I send that note? And it all comes from doing this. Because try and force to hold back the air. It feels so uncomfortable to get all choked up. There's nothing coming out. So make sure there's air coming through the horn. So blow through the pipe and have fun.